Greetings, this is Dan Sandler. I am walking through part 2 of an exercise which will show you how to set up a Hadoop environment, stream social media to that environment, create some basic queries, and do some real-time streaming and querying of the data. Today, this part of the exercise, and this can all be done in less than a day, so this is part 2. We're now going to set up our Amazon EC2 instance. So this is, if you have an account to another cloud service provider, feel free to set it up in any environment. Just make sure it's Linux, because the following portions of the tutorial are really Linux centric. So what we'll be showing today is essentially how to set up this right here, that little box. So single node cluster. My environment's M1 large, so those are the the sizes of these of the instances in the Amazon cloud, and it's Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6.3 64-bit. So we are going to jump right in. So right now, my company has Collaborative Consulting. We have services set up in the cloud, so we have an account, and I am running an existing Hadoop sandbox. You can see it's M1 large, so we're not going to, I recommend M1 large first and foremost. It's good to have some horsepower, something to play around with. For the purpose of this exercise, I'll create a micro instance. So here's just a quick wizard to, you basically have a bunch of different platforms you can set up your instance on, mostly Linux, some Windows as well. So select the one you're most comfortable with. I am most familiar with CentOS or Red Hat, so I will go with Red Hat. I will say, for instances, micro. We're going to go with micro. So you can see here free tier eligibility. So I think you're pretty good if you go with, actually I'll go with small. So just to make sure we have enough to keep the lights on at the end of the day. Continue. So now this is going to launch. This takes some time. So I'll go through, and I'll keep this as real time as possible, because I want the timings of each video to represent the overall time it takes to set up the environment. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking. So we'll continue. No keys. You can set up some key value pairs. We don't really have any. So I have an existing key, which is basically for security and for access, and I'll show you. You can create a new pair on the fly, but I have a standard one that I use. I'll show you how that's used later on in this exercise. So the firewall, there's a security group, and this basically opens up ports to the server, and so I have my Hadoop server, security group, and well, I'll show you which ports are opened up there in 1 second. So this is all it takes to get something launched. So it's going to launch in a second. You can see here it's thinking. It takes a couple minutes to launch. Of course, Amazon is, actually there it is. So it's already launched. I'm going to give it a name. All right. Just filter out all these. So this is running, and it's still loading. I'll show you breakdown below here. So this is the actual host name, the external host name, I should say, of the machine. So embedded in there is the external IP address. So if you need to register this or add this to a host file, and you're wondering what the IP address is, it's right there. The host name is, of course, right here as well. This is important because in order to SSH in, we'll need that host name. So I'm going to go to, you can see right here, make sure that I have the host name so that when I can SSH in as root, so it's all, just got to copy and paste this command. So a couple of other points as I'm SSHing into this environment. There's a permission, a PEM file. And what that does is it's basically allows you to authenticate in. So that was the key file that we generated early. I actually generated it in a prior installation, so I just reused the key pair. If you ever need to access it in the future, it's right here. There's a key pair. You can save it to your file, save it locally, and basically you can SSH in using that PEM file, the key pair file. In addition to these key pair files, you should have received an AWS access key and a secret key. So these are, you need to set up these environment variables, AWS access key and secret key, because it's those two things plus this key pair file that allows you to authenticate into SSH in into the actual instance. So that's what we're going to do right now. First time. So we are in the environment. There's a couple things we have to do before we can actually begin the Cloudera install. That's really configuring the firewall, because Red Hat Linux by default has these ports disabled. We need to enable them. So just say this here. System -config firewall -ti. Okay. So it's enabled. That's fine. We're going to customize it. We're going to say we want to enable. So you can enable whatever you want, frankly. We're going to say, of course, SSH. We want HTTP, HTTPS. Okay. Close that. And then we're going to add a few others. Going to add port 7180. This is Cloudera Manager. It runs on 7180. Once it's installed, this is TCP. I'm going to add another one. 11000. Again, TCP. This is the Uzi. This is where the Uzi workflow. There's a console, and you can access it through this port. We add another one. 50030 TCP. Going to add 500. And that was the MapReduce console, and this is the name node console. 50070. Okay. So we are going to close that. We're going to say OK. We're going to Please remember to check if the services are enabled. Okay, we're going to say yes. Okay. So one other thing to do is we need to disable SE Linux. Otherwise the install won't work. So we have to etc vi etc, so we're going to edit the config file under SE Linux. Okay, so this is enforcing, just say disabled. At this point we have to reboot, so we'll reboot now. Okay, and we'll give it some time to reboot. As it's rebooting, I can show you the security group. So this is what we, if you remember before, as we were instantiating the instance, we assigned it to a security group. So this tells us the ports that are open. So SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, MySQL, and then the port 7180, again, that's the Cloudera Manager. Then we have Uzi, we have the MapReduce console job tracker, and then we have the name node. So let's see if it's back up. It'll take some time to start back up. Of course, we just rebooted, so it's probably in the process of starting up right now. But this is the final step in the setup of your EC2 instance. And with that said, we're ready to begin the install for Cloudera. And that's really the next where we'll pick up for part 3 of this series. This is again just to install, set up, and do some basic port configuration essentially of your EC2 instance. There we go. So we're in. All right. So I hope this was, again, I should have specified that part 1 of the series was 30 minutes. This is part 2. Each one of these are going to become incrementally faster. All right. So this one builds on the next one, builds on the next one. Each one of these are going to become more discrete, bite-sized activities. So the upfront talking and setup, that's in our rearview mirror at this point. We're focused on doing each one of these, and then you can get an appreciation for this is really a task that is measured in hours, and hopefully it's one worthwhile from your perspective, and you'll continue along and follow through the series, and stay tuned for the next part, which will be coming up shortly. Take care.